This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
To reply. Turning toward the house, she listlessly peeled off her thick cotton gloves and threw them on the ground. As he gathered the equipment, Derek tried to make light of his fatigue, joking about his 72-year-old bones and how it was getting harder to bounce back than it used to be. Advancing age was not something he accepted readily. To help postpone it, he kept in shape with tennis and sporadic jogs along Holcomb Rock Road, the narrow, twisting thoroughfare that ran in front of their house. But a long day of hard labor in a hot sun was enough to drain even the barrel-chested Derek. The Haysoms had moved to Boonesboro 3 years before, in 1982, after Derek retired as director of a venture capital organization in Nova Scotia. An engineer by education and training, Derek had shifted into management at mid-career and worked in executive jobs on 3 continents. Boonesboro beckoned because it was a suburb of Lynchburg, where Nancy had grown up. They lived in relative tranquility in a modest 2-story house that Nancy had named Loose Chippings, after a dwelling in an obscure British novel. In the novel, the house was called that because it served as a sort of way station for eccentrics. Nancy found that particularly applicable to their situation. Naming houses was one of Nancy's little quirks. Another was collecting small boulders, which she used for building walls around the gardens they always planted whenever they moved to a new residence. Over the 25 years she and Derek had been married, wherever they lived, Nancy always built rock walls around their gardens. Now that she was into middle age, the children nagged her about it. Wrestling with outsized rocks, they argued, was not a hobby particularly conducive to her continued good health. To appease them, she promised that the wall at Loose Chippings would be her last. "I'm for a shower," she said, running her hand through a mop of auburn hair that was just beginning to show streaks of gray. "You go ahead," Derek muttered. "I'll finish up here, and then I'll be right behind you."
"God, it was beastly out today," Nancy said, looking cool and comfortable in a royal blue dashiki she had chosen for a quiet evening at home. Her speech was clipped and sprinkled with Britishisms, which was not surprising considering she had spent the last 36 years, since she was 17, living among British expatriates in southern Africa and Canada. Despite her Virginia roots, there was hardly a hint of a southern drawl.
"Summer will be here before we know it," Derek agreed. "At times like this I wish we were back in Nova Scotia." While Nancy's accent was affected, Derek's was legitimate. Most Americans hearing him talk, in fact, thought he was British. In reality, he was a South African of British descent, a native of Natal Province on the East Coast. During the years he worked and studied in the United Kingdom before returning to Southern Africa after World War II, he polished his speech to the point where no one but an Englishman would notice his colonial roots. Nancy sighed. Finishing her drink, she extended her empty glass. "Would you please?" she asked Derek. Derek took it and strode to the liquor cabinet. "The same?" he asked, already pouring a large shot of gin over the melting cubes. She did not answer. Given a choice, Nancy almost always drank gin, Boodle's when it was available, Gordon's when it was not. It was a sign of his exhaustion that Derek did not offer his usual lecture on the evils of her beverage of choice. Almost invariably he chided her about her love for gin. "The juniper extract used to flavor it is a perfect poison," he would say. "It produces the same feelings of aggression as amphetamines." Tonight he said nothing. Silently he added a splash of soda and a slice of lemon to her glass, and put it to the side while he refilled his own. Derek's preference was Scotch, which he consumed in the British fashion, straight up. No ice, no water, no soda. Scooping up the 2 glasses, he recrossed the room, handing the gin to Nancy and taking a seat across from her. As much out of habit as because of the heat, Derek had closed all the curtains so that they were sitting in the glow of a single lamp. The weak light threw Derek's craggy face into strong shadow.